Now I'm with one of the fan favorite drivers, the Beetle, George Harrison. George, I know you got some great stories. Your family was here for a long time, and then also tell us a little bit about how you not only have you been a driver, you've been a jockey. So first of all, tell us how your family got here and what you first remember about Vernon Downs.
First thing I remember about Vernon Downs is my dad had a barn up on top of the hill with Burton's, and I was just a little boy when my dad brought me, and I loved going there because I got to drive his Jeep to take the manure from the barn to the other side of Burton's cow barn. So that was my big thing. And then, of course, my mom passed away when I was early, so my dad brought me down here every single day, so I grew up here. And then I started getting involved more, just like everybody else who grows up on the track. I started training and driving and got my P license in 1980. But Vernon had a collapse of ownership back in, what was that, 2000 or 90? And I was in Kentucky, and some of the friends said, "What are you going to do? Vernon's closed." So I went over to the Thoroughbred track and started riding Thoroughbreds. Had a good time doing it, and I wouldn't have been successful with the Thoroughbreds if it wasn't for my Standardbred knowledge. People said, "Hey, get George, he's one of those Standardbred guys. He knows a lot about horses." And I tell you the truth, if it wasn't for the Standardbreds, I don't know what I was going to do when Vernon closed. But after so many years with the Thoroughbreds and my weight started getting heavier and bumps and bruises took effect, I decided to retire from there, come home to my hometown, get some horses with my girlfriend, Francesca Meza, who owns them all, and just have fun. Just drive and train and do all the work yourself.
Do you remember your first win as a Thoroughbred jockey?
I do not remember my first win, but I remember my best horse, who was second in 1990's Kentucky Derby, Tejano Run, and he made $1.3 million in 2 years and also became Canada's best sire after that.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Do you remember your first win as a driver at Vernon Downs? And I'm putting you on the spot today, George.
My first win at Vernon Downs came after I left the Thoroughbreds and came back to Vernon. I didn't get many drives. I got all my P drives through Mickey Bridges, Gates Bernay, Jay Sears. Those were my three guys that I came up under. But I was young and learning back in those days. But now once I got my own horses, and the first week I started racing, I win my first race.
Now, so tell us how you met Fran and a little bit about her background, because I know that's in horse racing too, and how it was horse heaven.
Yes, Fran and I met through a mutual friend of ours. It was an employee of hers and a high school friend of mine. And Fran loved horses. She rode horses, she rode quarter horses and show horses, and her employee said, "You ought to meet my friend George Harrison." So the girl called me up and said, "You need to meet Fran." And I'm like, "Why would I want to meet somebody in Utica? I go to Saratoga and I live in South Carolina." She said, "Just call her up and chat with her." So I called her up and chatted with her. We got along real good on the phone. And the day I was coming up to race at Saratoga, I stopped at her house to meet her, and I've never left. Most of the tracks that were familiar with Vernon and kind of compared, they're out of business now. So I hand it to the owners of Vernon Downs now for keeping this going and keeping the trademark going. And, we like what we do, and it's not always about the money. It's just doing what you like doing and being successful and having a whole crowd around you that you work with, and it's just a good mix.
Tell us a little bit about your award that I heard you're bringing back, the Ramblin' Willie, and a little bit about Ramblin' Willie for people that don't know about that horse.
Well, when we were doing the Ramblin' Willie for young or drivers who weren't driving, didn't have that many horses to drive, and if they get a win, we gave him that Ramblin' Willie Award, and I had multiple sponsors of different restaurants were supporting that with $25 gift certificates.
Tell us, for people that don't know about Ramblin' Willie, what kind of horse it was and how special it was. It was like the Seabiscuit of the Standardbreds.
That's true. Ramblin' Willie was known as the horse that God loved. He came from, he was owned by a church, and then one of the trainers that was in California asked if he could train that horse, and if he could, he would donate all the winnings to the church. And from that point on, Ramblin' Willie started winning races, and he became the winningest horse of all time. And he became the name of the horse that God loved, because people would show up at the racetracks in groves to watch this horse race, and he was the horse that God loved. Hey, Vernon Downs and all the employees and all the head guys, and I just wish that this season is going to be the biggest and the best, and we can get the crowd back here and everybody have a good time, get along, and let's have fun and race.